Hello, everyone. This is Eric from Etiquette back for another live stream. If you're new here, put your name in the comments down below. Tell me where you're from. This is a live stream for teachers, and today we've got a really special topic. We're going to talk about AI for teachers. And we are very fortunate because we've got a good friend of mine, Dr. Donald Wells, who actually just wrote a book on AI for teaching English. And we're going to have him on in a couple of minutes. But first, I'll wait a bit for people to join and say hi and just do some housekeeping. Yeah, everyone, if you're new here, my name is Eric. I just dropped a pen. I'm a teacher, and on this channel, every week, almost every week, we do a live stream about teaching. Sometimes we pick a topic, otherwise we just talk and we take questions. If you have any questions for us, you can put those in the comments too. In a couple of minutes, I'll have Dr. Donald Wells on, or Don as I call him. You guys can call him Dr. Wells. And if you have any questions, you can ask it in there. Yeah, we can see we've got a new member here too, Luciana. Luciana, thank you so much. It's amazing having new viewers join. So basically, on YouTube, if you become a channel member, I've got lots of books and resources, lessons, worksheets that I leave there for channel members. So feel free to join. But yeah, every week I try and make content for that for teachers. And I'm very excited to talk about AI in the classroom, especially for English teachers. So yeah, just think of some questions you'd like to ask, because so Dr. Wells, or Don, just wrote a book on teaching using AI, teaching English using AI. And I've got many questions because I think this is a really popular topic at the moment for teachers, because this is a massive resource. While some teachers don't really like it, especially when students use it for writing. But I think as teachers, whatever we can do to improve our teaching, improve our lives, and also help our students, we should grab it with an opportunity. Wayne, hi, a big fan, literally. I just saw all your videos. I'm so happy. Thank you. And by the way, guys, if you have any videos you would like to see, please let me know. Yeah, I try and make videos that can help. But I think, yeah, almost 3 minutes gone. I think it's a long enough intro. Let me introduce Dr. Wells. Okay. Don, hi.
Hello, everybody. How are you doing, Eric?
I'm doing excellent. How can I refer to you from now on? Don or
Don? That's fine.
Okay.
No need
Well,
to
we've got Sable in here. We've got some questions coming in. But Don, tell me, can you tell me a little bit about yourself? So you wrote this book about that we're going to get to about teaching English using AI. But what about you? What do you do?
Well, I teach English. I've taught English at a university in Korea for the last 10 years now. Prior to that, I also taught overseas in China and Kurdistan. And then before that, I also taught English literature in the United States for a few years before I moved overseas. So I've been teaching for a long time. If you count grad school, I've been teaching English for 20 years. And then I've been using AI, sort of dabbling in use of it for different purposes for a couple of years now. And I got sort of interested in writing a book about it. But yeah, just because I've been using it to sort of help my teaching a little bit. So,
well, that's the thing is, I think as teachers, everybody, not just teachers, but everybody's been looking into AI. How can we effectively use it? And so it's great having teachers as yourself coming out and researching it, looking at ways on how to use it effectively. But quickly tell us, just so you've been teaching how many years, and where are you from originally, just to get an idea?
So I'm originally from Charlotte, North Carolina in the United States. I got my PhD from the University of North Carolina back in 2007, and I can't say I've been teaching ever since, because I spent 4 years working as a writer for NBC News Channel in Charlotte. And then after that, I moved overseas and have been teaching overseas ever since. And
Okay.
yeah,
And, so yeah, it sounds like you had a lot of experience. And how would you talk about how are most of your classes? How do you teach? So you're teaching right now in Korea with me. Tell me a little bit about your classes. How are they run?
So I teach conversation classes, and the way I run my classes is I'll do a lesson, let's say a short lesson on using before and after to make more complex sentences. And then I'll give students some sample questions that use those words before and after. And then I'll say, okay, get together with a partner in groups of 2 or 3, and then ask your partner these questions, and then try to ask them a follow-up question after they answer. For more intermediate students, I'll try to get them to do 2 follow-up questions. So they're practicing. So I'm doing a lesson, and they're practicing it right away to have conversations. And then we'll do a couple of other lessons, and then there'll be a reinforcement lesson later, which puts it all together. So, for example, before and after, talking about your daily routine, and let's say using and but, and then they'll be doing little conversations on each of those, and then they'll do a longer conversation, putting all those things together. So what I try to have my students do is it's scaffolding. I have them practice little things, and then make them do bigger, more complex things, and just build from there. So that's how.
Great. It sounds like you give them you teach them, and you give them many opportunities to actually practice and improve on whatever they're learning. So how did you use AI when you first started? Because you said you've been using it for a couple of years. So before you wrote the book, so let's have like a BB before the book.
Right.
How did you use AI?
So this is something where one of our coworkers who has since gone back to the States to work in the States, Patrick, he was using ChatGPT like a year and a half ago, I want to say, maybe 2 years, but it was an earlier version of ChatGPT. But he said it actually is pretty useful for doing some simple tasks for you. And so the first thing that I actually had it do is I was like, okay, give me 10 questions that use the simple past that are suitable questions for beginner level students. And then it came up with 10 questions. I was like, you could come up with those on your own. But what's nice is you could just save yourself a couple of minutes of like, oh, let me think of something fresh and new. Just have it do it. Okay. So, and it did it very well. And then it's like, okay, let's go up from there. Can you do a lesson plan for me in teaching the simple past? And it generated a rudimentary lesson plan that wouldn't be usable out of the box, but elements of it were usable. And then I was, okay, it's so here, my take in the book and my take in general is that AI is not going to just do everything for you. You kind of have to massage it a little bit. You have to tweak it. You have to edit it a bit, but it can do some lifting for you. It can take some of the drudgery away of thinking of like, well, what's a clever activity? I've already done this and this and this. Can it come up with more? Suggest 10 activities that might be fun for students for practicing the simple past. Yeah. It'll probably come up with 1 or 2 or like, yeah, okay, that's a good one. I'll modify that and use it. So it's very good at producing content that you can use, not as is, but that you can use with some modifications on your own.
I heard this interesting thing where someone was talking about AI. Will AI replace teachers? And it's not that AI will replace teachers, but AI might teachers that use AI effectively might replace teachers. So right. So it's a tool that we can use, and I'm going to ask you about some of the prompts and things, because I think that there must be some very interesting and engaging ways to use the right prompts to get what you want as a teacher. But let's start at the beginning. Tell us about what's the name of the book and what inspired you to write this book.
Okay, so the book is Using AI to Teach English. And if you look at the cover, it's got the title with a little picture, a little orange circle around it, and two students sort of interacting.
It's in the description, by the way. It's the link is in the description,
Fantastic.
by the way. Guys, go and check it out at on Amazon. It's in there. Please support Don, and he's telling us all about it. Sorry, I had to put that in.
And that was an AI generated image as well, by the way. But I had to massage it a little bit. I had to tweak it. I couldn't just use it as is because it didn't quite make it perfect out of the box. I had to fix that a little bit, and that's kind of how I feel that AI is like it's like a personal assistant that you can train to do things that you want it to do. Okay, let me go back to your question, which was, how did I get started? When I was thinking, I often talked with other teachers about teaching and using different tools, and I would talk to several other teachers, like Robert and Patrick, and they would play around with AI a bit, and I would say, "Oh, well, I'm using it to do this. I'm using it to do that." And then the more I thought about it, the more I thought, some teachers are concerned about this technology, or worried about it, or afraid of it. I could write a book which is for them, a book in which I can sort of take some of the fear and the mystery out of it and make it seem something that is just a tool that you can use. It's not something that's necessarily going to replace you, and it's not something that's the technology behind it is very complex, but the using of it is actually very simple. It's just like talking to a person. So I see that Aline asked this question: how much can we depend on AI? That's a good question, and it depends, because I was talking last weekend. When I went up to Seoul, I was talking with a teacher there who teaches linguistics courses, and what his experience was that he couldn't use it really to sort of teach content like linguistics. It wasn't able to do that. It was able to help him out a little bit, but it had some limitations there. And so I would say, how much can you depend on it? Right now, depend is an interesting word. If you're a teacher that uses PowerPoint, let's say, in the classroom, you could say you depend on PowerPoint, right? On the other hand, the class isn't going to teach itself, right? The PowerPoint is just there for you to elaborate on, or for your students to read sample questions from. Yeah, but if you needed to, you could just write it out on the board, right? And AI, I think, is kind of like that. It's like a tool like PowerPoint, except way more powerful than PowerPoint, with way more applications. But at the end of the day, I would recommend that you depend on it the way you depend on PowerPoint, in the sense that you use it, but if it wasn't there, you could do without it.
I feel I'm sorry to interrupt. I feel like, with anything we use in the class, if it's flashcards, if it's certain worksheets, if it's certain activities, all teachers have different ways of doing things, different tools that they might use more or less. Like, for example, the way you run your class will be different from the way I run my class. We might have the same goals, but we have different ways of getting there. We have different tools that we rely on. And that brings me to, I guess, what I think using AI is like, that each teacher might have different prompts or different ways that they use AI, be it to look up some more examples, or give ideas for activities, or look up ways to teach something, or common problems. What are some of the tools that you use, or teachers can use AI for? What do you think are some of the more important tools that you have found in your research?
Okay, that's a good question, and it's And it's true. And the way I set the book up is I try to, each chapter is about using AI for something different. Like, for example, using it for conversation practice, or using it for vocabulary, or using it for speaking, using it for writing, using it for reading. I would say one of the things that I use it for a bit that I think it's very useful for is generating targeted reading passages, especially for beginner students. So one of the problems with textbooks, English textbooks, is they'll have these reading passages, but often I find that the reading passages get dated quickly. Like it'll be about, oh, this is about One Direction. Okay, well, One Direction, are they really that popular in Korea? Is that really a thing? You know, what is this?
Right.
And that's kind of limited in its application. The benefit of AI generated reading things is you can specify, I need this to be 200 words. I need it to be readable for beginner students. And I want it to be about, let's say, about
BTS,
the weather cycle or something like that, you know.
Yeah.
And they have to be able to infer what condensation means and what evaporation means from the text. You can specify that it write it that way, and it will write a readable passage that you can have your students read and talk about. And it'll be a passage they've never seen before because it never existed before. And it's fine. It, you know, as I say in the book, the AI isn't going to be Shakespeare, but it doesn't have to be. It just has to generate a readable passage for beginner students, and at that it can do that, right? So that's a tool that it can handle quite well.
Yeah, I guess that's one of the things, you know, with the books, they come out, they're written, they take time to come out, and so a year or 2 years later, excuse me, I might sneeze soon. Sorry. So a year or 2 years later, the culture has shifted, and it might not be relevant anymore. So, but yeah, perhaps, you know, having AI write things that are relevant right now might help students also understand the context and how it's used.
Right.
What about
okay, go ahead. Well, I was going to say that's one area of where different AI platforms have different utility. For example, ChatGPT isn't as up on current events, whereas Grok is. So if you're using Grok, for example, if you're paying for Grok, it's trained on Twitter, so or X, so it's aware of any current event to a very high degree. So you can actually have it generate content about current events if you want it, whereas ChatGPT may not do that. I think this teacher I was talking to said he asked it to. One of my friends said he asked ChatGPT, do a mock NFL draft, but it wasn't aware of who the top. It only was unaware of who the top draft pick was. It wasn't even aware of what the order of selections is. So it's not aware of current events on some level.
Wow.
So it just started inventing things, which is one of the problems with AI, is that if it can't meet your demands, it might invent things to
really. Well, what I like to use it for is, so in class, let's say we're practicing something, I like it to come up with some questions that students can ask different partners or ask a partner. And so sometimes you've got to tweak it a little bit to get the type of questions that you want, perhaps personal questions, not only yes or no questions, or you know, questions that are suitable for the students. Are there any other, like, what other tools do you think would be best for teachers to use AI for in their classes to teach English? What do you think might be some of the most effective ways of using AI for their classes?
Another one that's useful is, let's say you're a teacher that uses something like the I'm trying to remember. Let's say you're using the lexical approach to teach English, for example. Now, the lexical approach is an approach where you're teaching students word collocations like stand up or get out of town or something like that, where it's like little phrases or little set patterns that appear together or tend to appear together. Well, one thing that AI is really good at is you could say something like, hey, give me the 100 most used word collocations in English, and it'll give you that list. When it comes to generating useful lists of things you want your students to know, it's great. And that's one of those things that, like, it basically has replaced Google search for me when it comes to that, because that would be the sort of thing that I would Google search. But now I don't do that. I use AI because now I can target my search. I could say, no, I want 100 words that are commonly used, but then I can specify, but not this kind of thing or not this kind of thing. You can get a more tailored approach to your search. And that's an indispensable use, I think.
Yeah. What's funny is, even with Google now, or once you type something in the past, it would give you the search results for websites, and there was a whole industry of websites out there. But now it's just Google's AI that basically completes it and gives you an answer automatically. Right. And I have to say, I was joking the other day with my girlfriend, saying, like, sometimes we ask something about, vitamins or something like that. When's the best time to take it? And then I'm like, well, we can have a discussion about it, or we can just type it in and we get the answer very quickly. And I think that kind of it kind of brings me to this that Arween says. It's in some way it made teachers stop making ideas for teaching, like we've lost our improvement. So I think for me, what's great about AI is you don't need to. It's on the internet. You could do the work and try and search for it yourself. Do your own research. But now we get everything, which is great. But it also might cause us as teachers to get lazy or not be creative anymore. So how do you feel about that? About using AI, but perhaps becoming too dependent on it and losing our individuality or our creativity on it?
That's going to be a problem, and I think like we all know teachers who let's say 10 years ago, teachers who overly rely on PowerPoint, like I used as an example earlier. Not to pick on that technology, it's an easy example, but teachers who over rely on that also become uncreative. I've seen many classes. I remember I saw a couple of classes when I was in China, where the teaching of the class was literally this enormous PowerPoint slide full of text.
It's a bomb game, basically. A giant bomb game.
That's an example. Some teachers are going to do that. Some people are going to be lazy. But I would hope that teachers who are worried about that are also the ones who that's probably not going to happen to, because they're going to be looking for ways to improve themselves. They're going to be looking for ways to remain creative. And to be honest, the teachers who do that, who are able to maintain that creativity while still using this tool, I think will be a cut above. They will still be the ones who are more in demand. A teacher who can just use AI, at the end of the day, someone's going to say, well, why can't I just use the AI? Why do I need you? Whereas if the teacher is modifying the AI, taking it, but massaging, I use the example in the book of taking a diamond, right? A diamond in the rough. Like what the AI produces for you is these rough diamonds. They're not cut. They're not beautiful. They're not ready to be put into jewelry. You have to cut away. You have to cut away all the nonsense and useless stuff that the AI added, or that isn't exactly what you need, or can't really be used, and make a nicely cut diamond out of it. But that's a process where you do bring your creativity to bear. You do bring your experience to bear. And that actually ties into the next question, which was, are AI lesson planners to be depended upon fully? No, they're not. And that's my point in the book, is that you shouldn't think that, oh, this is just going to do all of it for me. No, but think about it as, again, if you think about it as providing you with the raw material that you're going to make into something, then that's that's a better way of looking at it, I think.
Yeah, I think what we were taught as teachers is that you're not necessarily going to be the source of all the knowledge. You are basically just guiding your students towards the knowledge. So perhaps even if you use AI, your role is to help your students learn and learn new skills, practice, and become better. So maybe if you use AI to, well, best ways to teach it, activities, resources that they can use, questions, reading materials. You can search up common mistakes. And then your job is basically still formatting all this information in a way that makes it easier for your students to learn. But it's up to you to actually go and put it into a way and present it to the students, I'm guessing.
Right. Yeah, no, and well, like you said, you don't know everything. The AI can actually provide you with knowledge that you need. For example, if you're teaching overseas, let's say you have we have some Indonesian students at our university now. Let's say you're teaching some in a class next semester. You could ask the AI, what are, because I don't know the answer to this. You could say, well, what are some words? What are some English words or sounds that Indonesians have difficulty with pronouncing?
Yeah.
Or what are some features of Indonesian grammar that might lead these students to make certain kinds of mistakes? What kind of mistakes can I expect? It can prepare you for that. It would have some of that information. Whereas, I don't have that information, but if the AI could provide it to me, I could turn that into something useful from day one for these students.
Well, we've got, I just want to say hello to Martha. Martha, how are you doing? A very interesting conversation with Dr. Wells here, Don. And then we've got Maha here. I totally agree about AI replace everything you can ask for, and he will answer anything without needing research. Well, so we say AI is a great source. It can help us a lot. Are there any other ways, like I see they're constantly improving AI. So now, you can use AI to create pictures. You can use AI to improve video. You can use, sound. All these things are going to be made. What do you see in the future? What other types of things do you think we can be on the lookout for, except just text-based, information?
Right. Well, they're going to be integrating. They're going to be integrating sound and image with it more. Well, like one thing that doesn't quite exist yet is, so for example, if you go into ChatGPT, one thing I like to do is I like to have images for my students when I'm teaching something like, let's say, the present continuous. What are they doing? Okay, what are they doing in this picture? For a couple of reasons. First of all, because it's a good use of the present continuous, because in the picture it's happening now, right? So you can sort of use that. It's a good way to produce that language. But also because that's actually, like, our students sometimes take the TOEIC test, and that's a TOEIC speaking skill, is describe a picture. So it's a useful classroom activity. What I would like is if I could go into ChatGPT and I could say, generate 10 questions for me in the present continuous, and then 10 images that correspond to each sentence, so that I could just throw those images up. It can't do that right now, right? That's not integrated. You have to go into Sora, which is separate, and you have to pay for to get access to the image generator. And then you have to plug in the sentences. But in the future, that will just all be integrated.
One thing that
AI will handle it all from one platform.
Yeah, I heard someone saying that basically, with these, let's say, AI generated images, where they say, oh, well, you know what, I can see the difference between AI, but you have to realize that's probably the worst it's ever going to look right now.
Right.
It's just going to get so difficult to see, what the difference is between it. It's just going to improve at such a rate. So very soon we will have access to these images and ideas for us to use. But I guess it's for us as teachers to use it in the classroom. I've got a question though. So I think you talked about like some teachers might be kind of fearful of AI, of what it could become. How do you think teachers can overcome the fear of technology or being replaced by AI?
Well, I would say one way to do that. Well, it's a good way to help me plug my book. Buy my book. It'll help you overcome your fears.
The book is
But
in the description below. Check it out.
but
Please.
another way is to use it, because when you use it, you'll see the powers of it, but you'll also see its limitations. You'll see what it can't do. Because you'll ask it to do something complex, it will not be able to do it or handle it in a way you're like, that's not quite what I wanted, and then you'll realize this isn't going to replace me. It's not. I mean, a lot of people need to realize that a lot of what's going on around AI right now, there's a lot of hype around it because billions of dollars are being invested in this technology, and yes, it's probably going to pay off and it's going to do a lot of things for us, but when something has that much money behind it, there's going to be a big media hype train around it as well. And I think that's partly what people are responding to. We're all used to being sort of manipulated by advertising, and we're a little skeptical of things that get advertised to us this hard, as we should be. And I don't necessarily disagree with that. But what I want to do in the book is say, well, there is a core of value in this technology, despite the hype. And if you get in there and start using it, start playing with it, you'll see that, okay, this is something that I can use. And also, this is not really something I don't think I need to be afraid of. I mean, I see, like, I've had it write like people say, oh, it writes poetry, and people think I've had it write poetry. It stinks. It can't write good poetry.
Yeah, it's like that. What's that movie with Will Smith, I, Robot, where he's like, he talks to the robot and he says, well, can you compose a symphony? Can you create a delicious dish? And he's like, can you? It's like, ooh, burn. So, you wrote this book to help teachers, give them ideas on how to use it, some tips and how not to be afraid. Do you think teacher training programs should start with should include AI literacy, because this is such a big part of the tools that we as teachers can use?
I absolutely, I think so. I think it's doing a disservice if you don't provide some basic literacy in what this technology is and how you can use it. It would be like saying we're going to have teacher training, but they're not going to be computer literate. Not that every school uses computers, but you just, a lot of them do. I mean, and it's just, I think it's kind of basic, and it's going to be around. It's going to be in use. And yeah, I do think they should do some kind of AI literacy, if for no other reason, just so that people are competent to use the technology.
What kind of skills do you think teachers should develop to stay ahead of this AI? To keep improving their skills and to feel like they're on top of their game.
I would say the big one is interpersonal skills, meaning your skills in the classroom interacting directly with your students, because an AI cannot replace that. That physical interaction where you can sense. I mean, I can pick up very quickly roughly what a student's level is, sometimes what their problems are, and provide something for them that an AI really isn't going to be able to do or pick up on. They can't read body language. They can't provide. I asked students this question when I was teaching the future tense. Do you think AI, or do you think technology will replace teachers? And a couple of students in different classes said no, because robots and AI don't have emotions, which I thought was an interesting response. And I think there's something in our emotional capacity that will always keep us ahead in some level, because we're able to respond on a level that these technologies can't. So while I do recommend learning technology, I also recommend developing those interpersonal skills that use the heart, because those will, I think, keep you ahead of the technology in a way.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, ChatGPT or AI can help you so much, but it's up to us to improve our game in all areas. But the one area we can stand out with is interpersonal. Now, this is actually a question I've been meaning to focus on, and thank you, Kakushu Group, for bringing it up. Can you help us with some prompt hacking hints that will make our work easier? I think that is the thing we really want to know, because actually, I think it's a couple of years ago, as soon as ChatGPT was released, I did some research, and I made a video on 50, or I think a 50 or 100 ways that teachers can use AI, and it's still one of my more popular videos. I haven't revamped it or done a new video on it, which I should. But what are some prompts that you think all teachers should know? What are some interesting tips you can give us for using it with our English classes?
I can give several hints right from the book. One prompt hacking tip is to always ask for more than you need. If you need 5 questions, ask for 10. If you want a lesson plan, have it produce 3. Okay, and the reason why is because if some of it is not going to be usable, but the more options you have it make for you, and it's at no additional cost really, other than a little bit of time to read the stuff, you can start to pick and choose among what it produces, among the things that it produces, to find what you want. So ask for more than you need. Another thing is that in the book I say more precision means more precision, which means that if you say, give me 20 questions, it'll ask 20 questions randomly. But if you say, I want 20 questions suitable for intermediate students that practice using the present perfect tense with regard to past experiences, it'll do that. Okay, so the more precise you are in your prompt and what you ask it to do, it will. And in fact, it said some AI image and video programs say this, and I think the text generators do this as well, where it's like the more you tell it to do, the more it actually follows your directions. Like the less you say, the more it's like, he doesn't really know what he's doing.
More specific and more clear on what you want.
The more specific and clear you can be, the more specifically it will try to follow what you say. So that's actually a pretty useful rule of thumb to keep in mind. And then you can also, and then here's another little hacking tip that it's just obvious, but when you keep it in mind, it's useful. Is you can prompt iteratively, meaning you can say, "Oh, do this," but if it's not quite what you want, you can say, "No, do that again, but do this time. Don't do this. Do this instead." And so then it will say, "Oh, I'm sorry. and then it'll try to fix it."
Adding constraints to it, where you're like, well, actually, this is more of. So then it also learns of basically what you're looking for. Especially with some students, like let's say you want for specific students, you can say, well, actually, I'm looking for students around this level or this age.
Yep.
Yeah, I think I think what I liked about it when it first came out is I think, we're all limited in some way. So sometimes asking for alternatives or different ways of doing it. So maybe there's something, a way you didn't see. So you could say, for example, well, this is what I'm doing. This is the activity I'm using. Or what is a different activity that you would suggest? So in that way, you can also ask for different versions of things that can help you too.
Well, one activity that I didn't used to do much because I found it kind of tedious to create the materials was it's just a kind of a fun end of class activity or warm up activity, is have students unscramble words like you make anagrams of words or something.
Yeah.
It's really good at that.
Very
It's
quick.
and in fact, here's I wrote down a prompt because I found that it worked really well. I upload a list of, like, let's say 20 vocabulary words. I say turn each of these vocabulary words into an anagram for students to unscramble, or scramble it for students to unscramble. For about 10% of the words, keep the initial and the final letters the same, but only scramble the middle letters. And it does a good job of following that. Now, the reason why you do that trick of not changing the beginning and the first and last letter,
it's very difficult.
It's very easy to unscramble it if those are correct. And so I like 10% gimmies, because that keeps the students going, oh, this isn't that hard.
Otherwise, it's too hard when they get in.
Harder, yeah. So, and I hate making things like that because it's just tedious rearranging the letters, but it saves me the time. And so I throw little activities out like that from now.
What I like about it is, many years ago, we were taught to be afraid of technology. They're going to steal your information, which they still do. They're going to, you shouldn't get as much information of yourself out there. But actually, what I like about it is it starts learning about what you want. Yeah. So, if you ask certain questions all the time, it's going to figure out, or if you put in information about yourself, it's going to remember it and it's going to use it in the future. And that way it can help you better. And so I think what I also like to do is with my questions, I've noticed that I can ask for a certain style, or, I would like to have the conversation more friendly for students that have just that have known each other for a couple of weeks, compared to just total strangers and things. So I like the tone or the style, adding the tone or the style based on the AI's experience of me.
Yeah, that's good. Okay. Yeah, that is something it can do fairly well.
Yeah, we've got Alween, thank you so much for all your questions. It's amazing having you here. In teaching, is there an idea of using AI for beginners, or can you use it for higher levels as well?
Well, she's for beginners most, and less for higher levels. That does seem to be based on my experience and what I've found with talking to other people. Like, for example, this teacher who's doing linguistics. So he was doing higher level students, and it wasn't as useful to him. Whereas for my beginner students, I think it's extremely useful. There's something to that. I don't know that will always be the case. And it's also possible that that maybe there's some even more clever uses of it for advanced students that I haven't even thought about.
Well, for advanced students, well, obviously, sometimes I feel with advanced students, sometimes it's difficult to get the right resources for them. Let's say vocabulary they don't know, or that might be useful, or discussions that, or certain discussions they can have where you could perhaps do where they have debates, for example, where the AI could be one side of the debates and the student has to be the other side, but they can also give some hints and some tips to help the students too. So I do think there are other ways to use it more for advanced students too, but because it might just be simpler for beginner students, but we've got to start using this tool for advanced students too.
Right, and I have some. There are some suggestions in the book for some challenging things that you can have it do. One conversation challenge is along the lines of what you were just suggesting. You could ask it to have a friendly debate with my student about the topic of, let's say, using technology in the classroom, and you could specify, take the opposite side to the side that the student takes. So that way it's going to be challenging them with counter arguments to whatever side they choose to take. Now, that's an advanced student kind of thing for sure.
We've got Kakushu says, brilliant, thank you so much. And then Boutique says here, hi Eric, you've inspired me to start my YouTube channel on studying Russian language. Well, Boutique, please let me know. I'll be one of your first subscribers. I definitely plug your channel. I need to improve my career, my Russian very badly. Well, one of the things I was thinking about with advanced students, I was just thinking about something where would you get your students to use AI on their own? Because I remember when it first came out, there was no voice. You couldn't use voice notes for it. But now you can have an AI voice. You can
Yeah.
speak to it, especially if you're on your phone. So you could actually give homework, like you should have a discussion with your AI based on this. And perhaps with advanced students, you can also say, okay, well, have a discussion with AI about this or this scenario. So do you think as teachers we can also ask our students to use AI, or how should we as teachers talk about AI with our students?
I think you could probably assume that they probably have used it at some point. I know a lot of our students certainly have. As to using it or assigning it as homework or something, that kind of gets into an odd area where using it in the way that you might want them to, it might be paywalled, and maybe I wouldn't want to ask my students to pay for the service. I would want a little more clarity on that before I would assign it. But in terms of, like, in principle, no, I don't have any in principle reason not to say, hey, why don't you practice with? Because one thing you could have them do is you could have them practice with AI and then output the results and send you the results as a sound file or as a text file. I mean, you could have that. You could have them do that just if you wanted to. So it'd be something you could monitor, and it is a way to have them practice at home or practice extra. So yeah, I think it is something I would be inclined to say yeah, sure.
How do you feel about students using it? Because when it first came out, every teacher out there was like, well, essays are done. We're never going to do essays again unless it's in class and the students sit there with a pen and paper.
Yeah.
Whereas, sometimes I actually encourage my students. I say, listen, I know you're going to probably let ChatGPT create this dialogue I asked you to write, but let me give you some prompts and some ideas of how to use it effectively, and then you can fix it a little bit. So instead of being afraid of it, maybe you can help your teachers to use it more, use it fairly. But how do you feel about students using AI?
Obviously, having them use it to do writing assignments is a problem. One advantage is that the AI itself is pretty good at detecting whether something was crafted by AI. So we do have the weapon is double-edged in that case. So yes, they can use it to create, but we can also find out that they're doing that. I don't have writing classes, so it hasn't come up as a thing. But I've talked to teachers back home who have, it's an issue. It's a problem. And it's not a problem it's still in the process of being worked out, basically. One way is the one that you suggested, doing writing in the class. But another way could be, you got to do the writing, but it's got to be able to pass muster that it wasn't crafted by an AI. Or you could have them say, have the AI start off and then you complete it in some way.
Well,
that's
one thing's for sure is I think we're going to lose a lot of potential authors. If you think back at how much, I think before we could say we were born before Google, BG before Google, and now the next group will, and the next group could say, well, we were born before, before AI, and but now that AI is here, I think we might lose a lot of potential because when you were younger, how many essays and how much writing did we have to do, and now most of it will be done by something else. So I do think that's a skill that will go away unless we can motivate and encourage our students to do writing and as well as use that. We've got a question here by Aween, our favorites, our VIP, like our MVP for today, most valuable teacher, MVT. I like that. MVT, most valuable teacher. Is there a big difference between the paid apps compared to the free ones?
Yes. But what that difference is differs depending on the platform. I don't know if there even is a free version of Grok. I think you have to pay for it. The free version of Chat GPT, it has limited memory and you have limited amount of interactions with it. So that's a significant limitation in my view. And then for other Gemini, I think it's similar. There's a number of tokens that you can use for free, and which means basically things you can type in to have it do. So yeah, you're limited in your daily interactions with it, and in how much you can train it, if you will, to do things for you if you're using a free one. My experience is the difference is important. You notice it.
So Kakushu says, I specialize in young students and thankfully my job will be spared and has become much easier. Yeah, no, I think...
well, now I want to ask this person a question about, well, how has it become much easier? That's interesting.
Well, I'm trying to think, with younger students, I guess, like we said, resources, activities, games, dialogues that they can print out. Yeah, pretty soon they'll be able to get chants for younger students too, pictures to use instead of flashcards. So it's all just going to get much better. And let me ask about your book. Can you go through like some of the chapters? So, or what when teachers buy your book and they go through it, what can they find in the book that makes it so good?
Okay, so the first chapter is an overview and basic concepts, and that is where Kokushu Group's earlier question about prompt hacking hints. A lot of those prompt hacking hints are there in that first chapter, where I just give some general ideas about how to approach AI, ask for more than you need as a principle, being more precise in your prompting as a principle, the necessity of tweaking your results rather than copying them exactly, iterative prompting and so forth. And then what they're going to find in the subsequent chapters. So the second chapter is about using AI for conversation practice. And the way it's run is that each chapter will have different uses. So for example, one use is you can use it to create customized scenarios. And then I give example prompts and I explain what each example prompt is. Well, you could just copy paste them if you wanted and run them as a prompt, but I'm explaining what these prompts are, how they work, what they're doing for you. So the book is teaching you how to prompt the AI, really, but by just giving you example, but also hopefully giving you some sparks of ideas about, oh, these are things I could have the AI do. These are things I could have the AI do. So that's what I hope the biggest value of it is that it's lots of lists of things that you could have the AI do for you that you might not think about. And there's lots of example prompts that you could use to understand how to become a better prompt wizard, if you like. I don't really like that term, but okay.
It's growing on me. Prompt wizard, it's going to be a new title at school. Well, go to Don. He's the prompt wizard. Well, yeah, no, it sounds exciting. I think it's something that you've got to go through. And as you read the book, you're going to pick up lots of tips and lots of interesting ways of using it. And yeah, it just sounds like it's going to help a lot with that. So Kakushu says it's for clerical and office needs. Okay, yeah. So for admin work, and lesson planning. It sounds very creative. And Vutik asks, so do you let your students use AI for projects? What do you think? Would you let your students use it for projects? We spoke about using it in general, but what do you reckon? Is there a way to use it for assignments or projects?
They might be using it. So for example, I have them do individual presentation videos where they make a video. So this semester, the topic is going to be talking about 3 precious things. It could be person, place, or thing. And they need to talk about those, why they're important. I guess they could like have AI write the text for them. But the thing is, they still have to speak it They still have to produce it on some level.
Very
And so, what the way I've been approaching it is, I haven't had this yet, but I'm waiting for it, where there's something about AI generated text where it just has a certain feel to it.
yeah.
I'll give you an example. So I actually write for the student newspaper, and I edit some of their articles. Their articles have become perfect.
Wow, amazing.
They need almost no editing by me anymore. And that's probably because they had AI help them fix all the problems. I don't think they were written by AI, but they don't have the Korean idiomatic grammar anymore. They have AI grammar.
Well, this brings me, except for the writing that miraculously improved, have you, ever since implementing AI and the AI tools, have you seen your student outcomes improve? Like, do you see a big improvement, maybe in the way that your classes are run, or with the students, actually understanding things better?
Yeah, I feel that this semester, well, I'll give you two ways it's improved. One, my semester is completely planned. Like, a lot of times I would still be tweaking things the week ahead. It's all ready to go. And I might tweak things a little bit here and there, but not like before. So the whole semester is already planned because I used it to help. And the classes are going pretty smoothly, I would say. Student engagement is, I'm not going to say it's like enormously higher, but they're noticeably more engaged. And I've certainly been using AI to help plan things. Again, doing it the way I do it, where I modify what it produces rather than just use it, copy paste.
Well, yeah, I think having clarity and it helping set out the things. So things would have probably, your classes would have probably gone the same. But now that you've got this tool and it's set out and you've got clarity about how you're going to teach, it also helps the students understand things better too.
It's certainly saved me time. I can say that.
Well, Don, we're almost at the end of our hour. It went by very quickly. You've taught lots of things. What are some things that you would like to finish on, just about AI and your book that perhaps I missed? Some of the questions that people might be asking that I didn't think of.
I would say just keep in mind that it's not something. I don't think it's something to be afraid of. At least from our perspective as teachers, I don't think it's necessarily going to replace us. I do think what is going to happen is that teachers that can't use it will be replaced by those who can. So I think that's how it's going to play out. And I think the ones who rely on it over much are going to be the mediocre teachers of the future. Whereas the ones who use it to save time, to springboard, to find ways to push forward, those are going to be the better teachers of the future. At least that's how I hope things work. Yeah. And then I would also say, always keep in mind, this is an evolving technology. It's still developing. There's even a chapter in the book at the end where it's like, there's some things that it can't do now. Here are some of those, but that could change in a month, or it could change in a year, or it could never change. I don't know. So, that's still very much in motion.
Well, thank you so much for sharing all these prompts and ideas and having this great discussion. Last question. What are some next projects you'll work on? And by the way, guys, go check out Dr. Wells's book. It's in the description below. What's the name again?
Using AI to Teach English.
There we go. What are some future projects that you're going to work on now that you're done with this one?
So I have a series called Teaching English Through Stories, and I'm probably going to have a new not a new edition, but a new volume of that out this year, probably at the end of the year. And that's been a pretty popular series as well. And those are not AI generated stories. Those are generated by me. I tried having the AI generate it's short little fables that are very easy for people to students who are learning English to read and get a handle on quickly. I tried having AI generate fables, and its quality as a prose writer was limited. I believe.
Once you're done with it, please come on again, and we'll talk about how to use fables to teach English. Well, Don,
good.
Thank you so much for joining. All the best, and yeah, thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Okay, bye-bye. Okay, everyone, thank you so much for joining today, and also to Dr. Donald Wells for joining us and talking about AI. Yeah, so good to see all of you guys here again. I'll next weekend, same time, same place, I'll be here, and if you have any questions, please feel free to ask me then. Guys, thank you so much. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.